My name is Jeremy Harper, and I am a art and music teacher here at Edward A. Reynolds Westside High School, and I've been teaching art for 24 years. Next year will be my 25th year in the New York City Department of Education. So I met Devon when he was a ninth grader. He was an incoming ninth grader. He was part of a small class at Samuel Gompers Technical High School, which is the school I taught at before the school I'm at now. And, from what I remember about Devon, he was rambunctious. He was very eager. He wanted to learn. He had a drive within him, and I noticed that, he gravitated towards my classroom and being around me specifically because he knew me as the art teacher, and that's what he liked to do. And so he was like a lot of typical freshmen, talking a lot, immature, but obviously what I liked about him is that he liked to talk about art. Even though he didn't really know a lot about art, he didn't know, a lot of artists who were out there and things, he liked to talk art. He liked to talk about like drawing, and he liked to talk about the challenges of drawing. And, he obviously had this flair for graffiti at the time because that was kind of his upbringing into the world of art was through what he saw around him. Nobody was taking that kid to museums when he was young. His museum was the streets. So, that's what he shared with me. So when I saw it, I could definitely see he was rough around the edges. And, usually a really good art teacher, you can identify talent right away. You can see it. And I saw he had talent, but I could also see that he needed direction. That's what he lacked. He had none. So I think, where I come in his life, that's the key. It's like, I guess in some ways, I kind of started the path. I mean, he had already started a path for himself, but now I was like, okay, this path you're on, I'm going to show you some other ways. And, I'll start, incorporating artists into your lessons so you know who these artists are and, who can you look to inspire you, And so because he loved graffiti, a lot of his work revolved around line. So a lot of his early lessons with me were basically developed around line. But then we started integrating in other elements of art based on the great artists. And he was, he was a sponge. He was soaking it in. And, from what I remember, you could tell he was getting better because each lesson he would try harder. He would want to be challenged. He always wanted to be challenged. That I do remember. He was always asking to be challenged. He never wanted to settle. So I think, that's kind of my really early first memories of, crossing paths with Devon. So when Devon comes to Samuel Gompers, it's not like he was coming there to study a trade, which is what the school offered. We had electronics, we had carpentry, we also had college prep, basically to study for the regents. But Devon wasn't interested, Devon wanted to be an artist. He wasn't interested in those things. So, I remember had some early conversations of being disappointed that he was at Gompers. So the one thing I looked at when I saw his work, because usually new art students who will come to you as an art teacher and tell you like, oh, I love art. Can I show you what I do? Number one, they'll show you a sketchbook. They might show you some finished pieces that they've brought from their middle school portfolio. So when I first saw his stuff, the funny thing is I looked at it and I went, okay, all right, you're okay. Like you've got skills, but you obviously, you're doing the same thing and you're really not progressing. Like nobody's really guiding you into progressing. So we talked and he said, I really wanted to go to art and design. And I looked at his stuff and I basically, in my mind, I was like, well, yeah, art and design's not going to accept you with this stuff, man. And you could tell, like you looked at the stuff and you said, oh my God, like, what are you working with? Like and again, Devon probably didn't have a lot in his home, in terms of art supplies. Nobody was teaching him how to use gouache and watercolors and things like that. So he used what he had, which was markers, crayons, markers, pencils, things like that, ballpoint pen. And my thing with him was, okay, if you come to my class, because a lot of his classmates were skippers, would skip class and stuff. I said, if you're consistent and you come and you listen to the things I have to tell you, like, hopefully what we can do is we can help you reconstruct a new portfolio. You'll show that you know some of the principles of art. They're going to want to see a variety of things. They're going to, when they look at your portfolio, they're going to want to see that you're kind of well-rounded, but that also you work hard in the different mediums. So I think by coming to Gompers, he had access now to new materials. Because the one thing I've always really tried to do for the kids that don't come up in good art programs, because most kids in New York City don't come up in good art programs. You'd be surprised, because this is like one of the arts capitals of the world, but they really don't. A lot of kids don't even get a formal arts education. What they do is they get like a math teacher thrown into their classroom who teaches art to them so that the kid can get their art credit. So with Devon, he comes to me and now he's got himself, wow, a real art teacher who has real arts materials in a classroom, different things I can experience, and learn and make mistakes and get better. So we had conversations and, my intent was, okay, we're going to expose you to these things and then we'll rebuild your portfolio and then you can go reapply to the School of Art and Design and you'll probably get in, so that's what he did. He stuck to the plan and he was consistent. His attendance was good. And he listened, he listened. If I told him to do something, he did it. If he questioned me why, I told him why. It was like, this is why you have to do these things. I knew why he didn't get in. He didn't have the skills. He didn't have the skills, nor the direction. He was, an art school would look at him and say, well, there's talent there, but I don't know. It's funny how people that review portfolios are, but I think because I had a lot of experience in that, not only being a teacher, but also, my own experience of going to art school and applying to different art schools in the country and going to portfolio reviews and having people review my portfolio right in my face, getting critiqued right in my face, the good, the bad, what needs improvement, what you're lacking. You have to have a tough skin when you're an artist. You do. You have to have a real thick skin. And he's got it. He's got a thick skin because I guess what I would say is when I first also looked at his stuff, I told him flat out, your stuff stinks. Like it's no good. Like it's amateur hour, but I think he didn't run away from that. He didn't look at me and think I insulted him. He was like, okay, well, then it's going to be your job then to get me where I want to go. And I would say in the time I had him, when he was my student, he was my closest student. He was always in the classroom. He was always working. He was the kid. He was also the student I always looked forward to the most in seeing his work. If I gave him something to do, I was always excited to see what he did. I wanted to see, did he improve? Did he do the things I said? And so as an art teacher, when you do start to develop relationships with your students, especially the ones that have the gift or have the hard drive, the hard work drive, or that they're going to be an artist. And if they're not an artist, then you better look in the mirror as the teacher and say to yourself, did you help that kid enough? And I think that's one of the responsibilities of the art teacher, especially nowadays, is like, if you do come across talent, you better take it serious. Don't just be like, oh, yeah, you got talent. A lot of art teachers that I've come across in my time are really great at that. But I've also met some art teachers who almost are like, they couldn't be bothered, which is a shame, So I know I was hard on him. I really was. And like I said, tough skin. He took it and he got better and he got better. And each time I'd be more impressed. And I'd be like, okay, time to challenge him even more. When you go to a school like Gompers, it can be a very isolated feeling in the building because it is a big building and kids tend to get kind of cliquish. It's not unlike a typical high school in a way. I mean, yes, it's the inner city urban high school in a low socioeconomic neighborhood, but it's a lot of what you see on TV and a lot of what, we're used to, which is a very, there's peer pressure, there's cliques, there's groups, there's bullies. His time at Gompers, he was not only searching to become a better artist, he was searching for himself, He had the struggles of his home life, which were now coming to a head with his high school life, his freshman year, which is a very important year to a kid. We know most kids that get off to a great start as a freshman usually do well. It's really hard when a kid doesn't get off to a good start. Art was his haven. So my room, especially on the third floor, was like his space, his safe space. I think outside he probably found difficulties because he hadn't really developed relationships outside of like the small group he had, which was outside of the school, and also a few of the kids that he hung out in the school. So it's not like you saw Devon hanging out after school, going to the basketball games, or, trying to try out for certain clubs or things like that. His life was basically dealing with his home life, trying to survive that in all its craziness, coming to Gompers, getting some enjoyment of being in the art class, and then trying to pass his other classes just so that he could have a decent transcript so he could go on to transfer. He kept that mindset. Even if you look back at Gompers now, I still have a pretty rich history there in terms of connections I've made with students throughout the years. A lot of the students I made connections with throughout the years there were through athletics because I also coached sports there. So it was very weird for me because here I was the art teacher, but I was also very popular in being the basketball coach, right? So of course I had athletes coming in my room and things. So you had this kind of weird mixture of like the isolated art kids and then the popular athletes coming to my room. My room was kind of like the epicenter, And I think for Devon, he just wanted, his mindset was to get in and get out as quick as he could. He was so, driven to get to the next level, which for him was art and design, that I don't think, oh my God, the bells, they kill me. Should I just continue from that part? Yeah, continue from that part. So I think for him, staying driven and then keeping a clear vision, not getting, because he had bad influences there too. He did. There were bad influences there that I know he had to kind of probably grapple with because he was loyal to his friends, but some of his friends were not doing good things. And I know for him, it was like, man, either I gotta, I stay loyal to them and go down this path. This is kind of unknown, or I stay to myself and that's what he chose. And that's why he's reaping the benefits now because he knows, and I know, and those that knew him in those early stages know that there were a lot of bad influences around him that could have said, hey man, don't go to school today. Let's go smoke and get high. Let's go write somewhere. Let's go tag things up somewhere. Let's go write somewhere. Or let's just go hang out, do nothing. So I think my classroom was the safe space, was also the place that he could look forward to seeing his end goal. That's what it was, is that my room was like, okay, if I go to this room, listen to this guy, work with him, do what he says, and continue to work at my craft, good things will come. And I think if I go follow these kids and do these things, I'm not getting to where I want to be. And then I'm going to be depressed, and then I'm going to be sad, and I don't want to feel that way. So the biggest quality was his drive, because he did have peers in his class that had talent like him, including one student who actually had more talent than him. And they sat at the same table. And I like that. See, as an art teacher, I always try to put the best artists at the same table because, it's going to breed that energy and it's going to bring the best out in them. And really what you learn is through competition is who's going to rise and who's going to fall away. And for him, he just had this determination that I want to be the best artist in the class. So a lot of times I would have to have talks to him too, like, hey man, art's not a competition. It's not a competition, There are artists out there who treat art like a competition, and that's fine. That's great. I'm an athlete myself, grew up in athletics. I know all about competition, but then in the other aspect of my life, which was being an artist, I had to learn that for myself, because when when you're raised in athletics, right, and everything's a competition, who's going to win, who's going to lose. Well, when you're the artistic talent, or you have that, you want to be the best. You want to show everybody in class, I draw the best. Oh, nobody's better than me. So I think one of the things, was his drive. When he was at that table with the other kids who were good at art, he never backed down. And I think what ended up happening was he saw that it was a good thing to look at other kids at the table who were as good as him or better, because then he knew he had to work at it. Because if I had just had him at a table with kids who really didn't like art, and let's say he's at that table, and of course that might have made him lazy. But I think now that I think back, it's like, okay, it was a good thing he was at that table. Because, that his friend, who was at that table with him, who had more talent, the friend eventually fell away because he took his talent for granted and he didn't work as hard. Whereas Devon just kept working and working and working. So, Devon, in my 24 years of being an art teacher, there's probably about 10 students I've come across in my entire life who have been driven, who are gifted, who are, just had it. And he's definitely, obviously, in the top 10. I mean, he definitely makes that list where he had the drive, he had the ambition, and that was key. And so I think, the one word I've always thought about with him is his drive. He definitely has a drive about him. And I think that's what served him so well, because I've seen plenty of kids with his talent that get lazy and they give up. And you find out they didn't even go into art. They went into something that made them miserable. And it's like, why did you do that? And sometimes this day I still shake my head at some of my students I've had. I'm happy for them if they're happy, but it's like, man, you really had the gift. I mean, even at the school I'm at now, I come across kids that have talent, just like Devon, but they don't have his drive. They don't. You'll tell them, hey, you're good, but let's work on these things. And then they'll come back the next day and I'll be like, did you work on it? No. I watched Netflix last night. Or no, I needed to do something else last night. And then he was never that way. He was never that way. It was like, hey, did you do it? He'd open up the book. Here's what I did. I can still remember certain things he showed me where I was like, whoa, okay, all right, we're on to something here. And then as teacher, that's when you're like, okay, we're definitely on the right road. So I think he also probably, going to art and design. Now, when he got there, he was obviously surrounded by ultra talent, and then the rich history of art and design. Some of my teachers went to art and design. I think maybe one or two of my classmates who I graduated with at School of Visual Arts, I think went on to teach at art and design. Guys I hung around with, so it's got a rich history, but it's also, it's flourishing with talent. And I think when he got there, that was really great for him, because he must have, I know we've talked about it, him and I, and it's like, that's why it was so important for him to get out of Gompers. Because once he got out of Gompers and he got to art and design, and now he's just surrounded by not only talented kids, but kids driven like him, that was probably what really sharpened his skills, and not only that, probably even gave him even a more clear vision of what he wanted to do. So, but yeah, again, he was a great kid in a sense, because it's not like the one thing that's really great about our relationship that I can say about him is it's not like he came to Gompers, got what he could, left, and that was it, we're done. He continued to reach out to me. Matter of fact, I can even tell you there were a few days he left art and design after school, came back to Gompers, and came to my classroom after school. Even though he had just done a full day at art and design, I remember he came back to Gompers and spent a few times with me drawing in the classroom. And I wanted to see what he had learned. I would say, show me what you've learned. And I'd say, oh man, fantastic. And then I'd say, okay, now let me show you some things that at the time you weren't ready for, but now let's add on to that even more. And so I would show him some things, and that's when I knew. I mean, I still remember this one day he came and he was doing some figure drawings. And you could tell he definitely had unlocked some of the skills that he didn't have, but now he had them. Like his gesture drawings were better. His proportions were better. You know, his shading, his volume, his mass was better. His likenesses were starting. So when he was drawing somebody, it was starting to look like them even more. You know, it was still rough, but you definitely I saw the improvement. I said, whoa. And then I knew. I said, okay, yeah, he's going places. Like you could tell. So, and that's probably something not a lot of people know, or probably he's even told people, is that, you know, he would leave art and design, a few times, and he would come back and visit me at Gompers. And that's how we stayed in touch, you know, and so I think I appreciate that even more, because a lot of students kind of, you know, it's like anything. They want to use you for something and then they're on to the next thing. He wasn't like that. No, he wasn't like that. He always reached out, you know, want to know how I was doing, you know, always had that goofy laugh of his, you know, that laugh. But yeah, you know, that's what I really appreciate, is that, you know, even when he left, he still came back, still visited, still kept in touch. And that's probably why to this day, you know, we're still, you know, we still talk. And I think that's, as a teacher, you can't ask for anything more. It's so satisfying when you know them when they're 14 or 15 and you're still cool with them when they're 30 or 27, 26. So, yeah. But yeah, that's the cool thing about him. He never stopped, you know, talking. He never just kind of got what he could and left. And, you know, he always continued to come back, and, you know, that's what makes him who he is. Obviously, the, you know, relationship he had with his grandmother comes to mind first. You know, his grandmother was like his mom. His grandmother was everything to him. She supplied for him the safety he needed, you know. When I had him as a student, though, you know, through conversations him and I had, you know, he did reveal to me at times, you know, there were some real tough nights where he was going through things. And, you know, there would be a few days that would go by where I wouldn't see him in class. And, you know, he didn't, you know, you just think as a teacher, okay, 2-3 days you haven't seen them. They've either, you know, maybe they didn't feel like going to school that day, or, you know, maybe they were sick. But, you know, then you would find out like, oh man, there was some major traumatic things going on at home. And so, not to get too deep, but, you know, I did know that there was drug trouble in the family. Once he told me, he didn't really tell me, you know, it's not something he gave away right away either. This was something that would come later. You know, where he would kind of reveal to me like, hey, you remember those days I was out? Like, here's why. And it was like, whoa, wow. You know, it's pretty heavy. You know, he told me, you know, some funny stories too about getting in trouble with the law, with the graffiti and stuff. You know, I remember certain stories, you know, not detailed enough, but I do remember him telling me some stories about getting caught with the graffiti and him being like, you know, his other buddies kind of had experience with being arrested and stuff. And here's Devon, and, you know, he thought it was like the end of the world, right? So I do remember him telling me that story one time where he was really paranoid, and his other buddies, I think, were kind of like, dude, it's not that big a deal, you know? Also, you know, throughout the years, I mean, he would share with me just little things about his father and things like that. But in our time together, from as teacher and student, you have to remember, he was, you know, he was very guarded. It's not like he was just giving out information. And when I look at some of his, you know, immaturity in those times now, and knowing the things we know now about his personal life, you can definitely see why he acted the way he did sometimes with some of his immaturity in the classroom. Because I can't ever really say Devon talked back to me. No, not, you know, I wouldn't put up with that. But now, knowing what I know, you know, that kid had a lot on his shoulders. Not to give him any excuses or anything, but he was a kid, you know. But he apologized. He always apologized whenever he did something wrong, or if he knew he said something wrong, he would apologize. He had that side of him. He was very empathetic. You know, so yeah, those are kind of just some of the stories, I guess. But well, here's the thing, and I'm glad you asked that. Drawing people on the subway is not like this thing that's never been done. To be honest with you, every art student that goes to art school is taught to go out and draw in public. And that's the first thing. That's how you're going to get better. Is like you got to go and draw. So it's not a big secret. It's not like anybody unlocked something here. But I'm going to tell you what he did, which is brilliant. And I think that's why he probably gets some of the hate he gets sometimes from the haters out there. Here's what he did. Artists are normally, when they go on the subway trains to draw, are very private in a sense. They go there, they're almost like you're trained to do it. Your teachers will tell you, hey, go on the trains, draw people. Try not to look like a creep while you're there, but what you're doing is you're building your observational skills, right? So what you're doing is not only are you building hand-eye coordination, but you're also, within that instant that you're on that train or bus or you're in the park or you're at the church or wherever you are drawing people in public, you're developing many skills. You're almost like developing your brain into becoming a camera. So what he did though, and this is what I love, is that he flipped it. Most artists will draw you on the train, close the book, and keep it moving. They don't tell you they were drawing you. They don't. Hold on one sec. They're developing draftsmanship. They're developing, just a lot of different aspects of what the artist needs, the intangibles, right? So he flips it. Most artists are private. What they're doing is they're drawing in their books, shutting the book, and they're moving on. They're not coming up to you and saying, hey, sir, I drew you, or hey, ma'am, I drew you. No, that's the last thing they want to do. But this is why he's brilliant. And this is why, people today, I'll see the comments on some of his posts and people are like, they're totally giving him hatred, right? But I'm sitting there going, no. This is the genius part of it. He flipped it. He would draw people and he would say, no, I'm not just going to close it up and move on. I'm going to show the person what I did. And I'm sitting there going, man, such a simple act. Imagine that all those years ago, if our teachers had told us to do the same thing, maybe, we would have found Devon Rodriguez a long time ago, a different person, but that's what he did. Artists, the last thing most artists want to do is show you what they're drawing when they're drawing on the train, because there's many kids that'll go on the train drawing, or even adults. I've seen many artists on the trains throughout my years along with me. I'll be drawing and I'll look down the cart and I'll see another artist drawing on the train, drawing somebody. And but it's a very private thing because for the artist, it's like they're taking all their thoughts and they're taking all of their skills and they know they only have a short period of time because that person could be getting up. So you're doing all this stuff. And so basically you want to get it, you want to stop, and you want to move on to the next victim in the train. You want to find somebody else because you're trying to sharpen your skills. That's what you're doing. But he takes it and he says, no, I'm not going to keep moving on. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. And that's the brilliance of all of this. It was that one simple act that changed the trajectory for him. Think about that for a minute. There are thousands of artists that have come before Devon that do exactly what he does. They draw on the train, they go home and they paint people that they saw on the train from their sketches. There's plenty of artists out there that do the same thing. But the one thing he did was he took the privacy out of it and he opened it up to the public. And he said, no, I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to open it up to you. And just by doing that, it's like, wow. And I think that's why he does get some of the backlash by artists, the older generation of artists who are like, I could do that, or, that's been done before. Why is he such a big deal? No. When you were doing it, you were doing what we all were doing, which was drawing it for our own selfish intent to get better, shutting our sketchbooks up, going home and painting from those sketches, just to kind of show it to our instructors, to say, hey, look what I did this week. Am I getting better in the art? Oh, of course. Oh, you still need to work on this. No. He said, no, I'm going to make this a lifestyle almost. And that is by far, for me at least, and there might be people that disagree with me, but no, I mean, like, if you really think about it, artists are some of the most selfish people on the planet. You have to be. Not him. He opens it up for everybody, and he says, no, this is what I'm doing. Because a lot of times, I know when artists are drawing people on the train, the person, if you know they're drawing you, you want to see what they did. And a lot of artists won't show you. No. They'll shut the book and just keep it moving. And no, man, he said, no, what if I was to draw people and then I would show them what I was doing? And so I think that is the most brilliant thing he did. And I laugh now because I'm like, it's amazing how it has opened up his world. And just by that one simple act, the one simple act of, I'm going to show you what I was doing, has allowed this kid to travel the world, meet celebrities, make himself self-sufficient, help his family move. It's changed his life. And it's not like he studied economics. He didn't discover a cure for cancer. He just basically showed some kindness is what he did, is really what it came down to. He showed kindness. And look what it did for him. And I think that's the brilliance of it all. And I love it. That's why I defend him. Sometimes when him and I text, I'll say, I went on there and I'll comment, if somebody makes a nasty comment, I'll sarcastically say something back and he'll laugh and be like, don't worry about it. But no, I mean, like, yeah, recognize what he did and recognize the greatness of it, because that's the whole thing. And now the cool thing is it's kind of spawning copycats now, because I've seen other people on Instagram and other people posting things where they do the same thing now, right? So he was kind of like the trailblazer for that. And I think when we think about his time in art, whenever that comes, wherever that leads him, and how he'll be remembered, that will be the thing. It won't just be that he was the subway guy, right? It'll be that, no, he actually shared what he did. He didn't have to wait for the big, most artists, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get to that one big show or museum event where they can show their work now to kind of give themselves that gratification, like, I made it. Nah, man, he went like guerrilla style. Like, he definitely did it like street level. Now think about that for a minute and how that relates back to his beginnings, which is in graffiti, which is, guerrilla style street art, which is making the pavement and making the walls and making the subway trains your gallery. Well, him sitting across from a person on the subway train was his start, and that was his art show. That's crazy. When you think about it, it's mind-blowing. But that's also exciting. I mean, that's the greatness of it all. That's why I smile. So that would be my biggest hope for him in 5 years, is that he gets to one point where he says, okay, I had a good run with this stuff, but what else is out there for me? I would love to see him tackle some, new things. I don't know what those things are, because art is changing. Obviously, now we're fighting AI. Now we've got this new thing called AI, right? And it's, we've got digital artists. But I think for Devon, if he just stays within himself, stays true to himself, I would guess that in 5 years, you will see him venture out. We won't be talking about Devon Rodriguez, the subway artist, anymore. Oh, he's the guy that draws people on the subways. We'll be talking about something else. I don't know what it is, but we'll be talking about something else. And I also would want him to be satisfied himself, and also bring aboard a new generation of artists, take them under your wing, I think that will be my greatest hope for him, and he'll do it. I have no doubt. The one thing I know about him is he's never comfortable. He doesn't get comfortable. And that's the best thing for him, is like, just don't get comfortable, because they'll want something new from you at some point, and he'll be able to deliver. He will. So, okay, I feel joyous, obviously. The first thing is I feel joy. I feel joyous because, and it's not just me. Others have been in his lineage of helping him along the way. There's a group of us, right? So he's talked about it many times in interviews about the certain people that came across in stages of his life. We should all be happy for him, number one, and joyous for him, but also take satisfaction in, like, whenever he's mentioned, whether in the news or whether in a magazine or whether it's walking down the street and you see his work on one of the kiosks. I think we could all take pride. We should all take a sense of accomplishment that we were part of his journey, and it should feel good. I mean, I'm there's no envy, there's no jealousy, there's nothing. There's nothing for me more than happiness, joy, gratitude. Not only that, because I get this, I get the joy too that he was part of my life. I have plenty of students who don't go on to fame the way he's gone on to fame and things like that. That just go into the world. And, but when they come back and you realize that you were part of that journey, like in the way, you helped them at a certain part of their life. I think that's, for me, whenever he's mentioned, that's my biggest thing, is I feel fortunate that I was part of that journey. I don't at all feel a sense of envy or, oh, why couldn't that have been me? No, that wasn't my place. My place was in his story. I had a place, and I'm happy for my place in his story. I'm more than happy of where I lined up in his story. And I'm even more than happy that we still talk today. I'm more than happy that he feels like he can text me or I can text him. Or call. Of course, nothing but joy, happy for him. I mean, it's great. I mean, like, man, to think that somebody I had in my classroom so many years ago now has his art not only hanging up in the Smithsonian or gets to buddy around with, celebrities I watch in movies, that is the coolest thing ever. Or gets to travel to parts of the world he only saw in books. How cool is that? I mean, that is great. That's fantastic. That's what you want for all your kids. I tell all my kids all the time, get out of New York, travel the world. He took it to heart. He was like, okay. I mean, I'm more than happy for that kid. That kid would, we'll always have that connection, I guess, in the end when it comes down to it. I guess, even when I'm a real old man, and he'll be around my age, and it'll be like, we'll always have that connection, and you can never take that away. That'll be one thing that you can't take away. And so, I hope his success is tenfold as his life moves on, So, I'm happy. I don't even know a word beyond happy, but absolutely happy for him. So I would say that I think when I think of Devon in terms of like his stature and everything that's gone on for him now, I think it inspires me to not to find the next Devon, but to help the next kid get to where, the same way Devon wanted to get somewhere in life where he foresaw all this for himself. He kind of predicted it for himself. He talked about it into his life. He talked it into success. It drives me to say, okay, let's find the next young student, whether it's in music or art, and let's hopefully see if we can develop their drive the same way and see if they have some of the same intangibles he has and develop those things. And hopefully we'll have more, because that's what it's all about. When you teach, it's not, and this is going to sound cliche, it's not about the money, right? It's not about the money, but what it is about, it's about making sure that those kids who come through your door have a better life. Like, you're part of their fabric. Do you want to be the strong thread in their fabric, or do you want to be the part that eventually when the fabric breaks apart and rips, it was because you weren't the strong piece of the fabric? See, I think that's the thing about being a teacher. So when I think of Devon, it does inspire me to say, okay, let's help this next student or set of students get to where they want to be the same way. That's all it is. When you have a group of students come in, they're only with you for a short time. I tell all my students this. I say, hey, listen, I'm a character in your life for a very short chapter. Use me for all I have. All the knowledge I've got, I'm here. Like, whether it's in music or whether it's in art. Use me for however I can help you, because I'm only going to be in your life for a very short time. Now, we might go on to be friends or, stay close. But for most kids, they're just faces, right? But you want to make sure in that time they're with you, you get to know them, and you get to know that, okay, for that time you were with me, that 1 year you were with me, or 2 years or whatever, I gave you the best I had, and now you take the knowledge I gave you and go do something with it. Because when I think about the greatest teachers in my life, that's exactly what they did. They opened up their world, they shared their knowledge, and they helped me, because I know for, every bit of his success, anytime he has success, I feel success. Because I know I was part of the fabric. I was part of the stitching, right? So anytime he triumphs at anything, it's a victory for all of us that were part of it. Not just me, but for the many who helped him along the way. It's victories. Every time he gets a victory, it's our victory. So we all win, right? There it is. When I saw the Biden video, right, it was like, okay, wow. Because it's kind of funny how throughout his time, he, when he's been drawing people, right, he kind of went from like celebrities, and then he kind of went to like mega stars, right? It was like, okay, I've seen that person before. He's drawing. Oh, they've been in this show or that. And then it was like A-list movie stars, right? Or musicians. But then, you get to the president. It's like, okay, what's left? It's like, what's left now? Who do you draw now? Like, I mean, listen, I thought it was a great video. I mean, Biden's expression was funny. It was funny too that, seeing some of the jokes that he was, going back and forth with Biden as he was presenting him the drawing. If I was Devon, I would have said, hey, listen, how do I get to do your next portrait in here and be one of the artists that, because that's another thing, who's going to do the presidential portrait, so. He should have used his time in there to market himself. He probably did.
You know what's funny?
Yeah, I think he did. So, yeah, when I saw the Biden video, it was like, oh, wow, okay, where do we go from here? Like now, after drawing the President of the United States, I guess, if I'm thinking about it now, what's next? The Pope? I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's funny because anytime I see his celebrity videos now, I'm like, no way. The Jared Leto one was like, really? Like, the Rock, seeing him with the Rock, I guess if I'm being kind of like, if I could suggest to him, I would like to see him do Tom Brady personally. That's my favorite quarterback of all time. If if I ever see him do Tom Brady, that'll be it for me. I'll be, so, yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, I think it's great. And I love how he kind of, the way when he releases the videos, it's like, oh, you can definitely tell when he's just doing the subway train of the everyday people versus like, uh-oh, something big's coming here. This is going to be somebody, who is it? And then it's like a surprise. And I think that's another great thing where he's kind of taken this, who am I drawing? And, and just seeing some of the, the wide range of celebrities he's getting, it's not like he's just getting, one genre. He's getting, music, he's getting comedians, he's getting everything. So, and now the cool thing is that they're getting to know his celebrity side. Like, it's not just, oh, you're drawing the Rock. Like, I'm sure like the celebrities now are like, oh, I see him, because another thing too is like, he is, Devon is part of the new entertainer. He's not the entertainer that came up through the movies or being on a sitcom as a child. He is the new type of creator, which is the digital age of creator, which is exciting for his generation because they carved out that path for themselves, which is the digital content creator, which are the new artists, whether it's doing comedic skits or lip syncing or drawing or cooking reviews or, restaurant reviews. He is that generation of celebrity now. And they have carved themselves out very nicely to where they're as known as the A-list Tom Cruise type celebrities. Matter of fact, they're probably even more popular because of the fact that the generation coming up now, they're not like my generation. My generation, everything was TV and radio. This generation is the phones, and they're always on their phones. And so that is where they find their digital content, their entertainment. And that is the world now that Devon is part of. So in a lot of aspects, they're probably more popular than the A-list movie star, and their names are more household. And I think for me, that's must be a really cool feeling for him. He doesn't have to walk in any place and try to say who he is. His work speaks for himself. His personality speaks for himself. If you ever look at his videos and you really listen to what he's saying or talking about, there's no ego. I've never sensed ego. He's a goofball. I'm always going to know him as a goofball, kind of that goofball side to him, but he's, don't mess around with him though when it comes to drawing and painting. If you get into that arena with him, he'll match up with you. That's his arena. He's definitely turning himself into definitely a skilled draftsman in the world of painting and drawing, and it's not a gimmick. Some people try to pass off like what he's doing as a gimmick. It's not a gimmick. You better understand something. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours you don't see that boy trained, where, whether he was drawing still life objects or he was doing self-portraits or he was going around the city and drawing in a Barnes & Noble or drawing in a bus station. There were hours you didn't see he was putting into his craft. He's not a one-trick pony. He's not. That's the one thing I can clearly say is he's not a one-trick pony. People say, oh, he can only do Subway stuff. No. He can do a lot more. Trust me. It's just that right now, this is what the world wants and what he's giving the world. Trust me, there's better to come. And when you really start to see his skills, you're going to be blown away. You're going to be like, wow, I'm sure, some of the great artists who've moved on are looking down and probably saying, they're probably proud of him and saying, wow, this is a kid that could have hung out with us when we were alive, because he soaks up everything, and he's not willing to say, he's not shy. He doesn't have an ego in a sense where when he walks in a room, he thinks he's the best artist. Like if he's ever around somebody where he feels like he could say, hey, could you show me that? He'll do it. He'll say, yo, could you show me that? Or could you teach me that? Like that's how he's always been. And, it's the meteoric rise we've seen. I think people have to understand that, man, there was a lot of grinding going away. It's not, I remember conversations we had before the fame, before the celebrity, before everything popped off for him, where, the first year of FIT, the year after FIT, when he decides to drop out, I remember one night we were at a drawing studio down in Soho. Me, my buddy, and Devon. We met up. We went to a drawing studio where you pay to have models come in and you draw them. And this is probably at the time, I think, where he was almost at his end with FIT. And you could tell there was something coming. Like you didn't know. I can't say I knew, but from the conversations, his frustration with FIT, but also the self-knowledge he was getting of the stuff he was learning on his own, and the training, something was coming. And I think for him, he was also in a stage of, I know something's coming. I just don't know what it is yet, but it's coming. Because he had the hunger. The hunger was there. You could see it. Questions he would ask. The one cool thing is, when you go to these drawing studios, it's very intense. 20-minute poses, 5-minute poses, whatever we're doing, and we're drawing and we're at that board. But then there's these break periods, and that's when you're sharing information, where they're looking at what you're doing, and you're pointing out the thing. You're looking at his drawing board, and you're saying, "Hey, fix this," or "Hey, do it this way," and see if it helps. And he's looking at yours going, I was never an egomaniac where I said only my way works. I would look at his stuff and go, oh man, Devon, teach me how you're doing that. Because I like how, I still remember one night we're sitting there in the drawing studio and I was watching him do his gesture poses that were like 2-minute poses or 5-minute poses. And I was actually watching him to say, because I myself at that time was kind of a little rusty, and I was watching him and I was like, oh, okay, I see how you're interconnecting those shapes and forms. And it was kind of helping me along as I'm watching him. So it's kind of like, it was kind of cool. And, that night I remember my buddy and I think if I remember, we talked with him for a while and then we left. And I think we dropped him off, if I remember. We dropped him off, I think at FIT or somewhere. I remember him being in the car with us. And it was like, okay, we'll talk again and we'll see where you're going. But, you could tell things were bubbling for him. Like you could definitely tell the drive, the ambition, everything was coming to a head. And now it was like, okay, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? Because if you're unhappy with FIT and you want to go this on your own, you better be ready. And he was ready.
So his first show is coming up.
Yep.
Solo show. On September 6th.
September 6th.
What do you think the outcome will be of that show?
Well, I guess, obviously, I would hope for him that he just enjoys it. And he basically, when that night comes, he realizes that it's an honor and a privilege to get your own show, right, as an artist, and to be able to exhibit to the public. And I want him to just, I don't want him to get caught up in, my hope for him is don't get caught up in like the BS. Don't get caught up in the BS of just we're here to, just heap, praise upon you and things like that. Don't get caught up in that. Look around and realize like the hard work that got you there first, right? Realize that. When you see that, when you're there that opening night and you're taking it in and people are going to be sitting there adorning you with praise, realize something. You got there for a reason, right? Don't get lost in that night. Look around, take it all in, and celebrate yourself first. Celebrate yourself and be like, wow, look where my hard work got me. Look where all the right decisions I made in life got me right now. I'm here. I made it. Because 99% of the public never gets to experience that. We all have dreams and ambitions when we're young of like, some people want to be the next great quarterback. They want to be the next great musician and sell platinum albums and win Grammys, and some want to win the Best Actor award. Well, in the world of art now, you're experiencing now the beginnings of success, and it can be very easy to lose yourself. Don't lose yourself. Like, get there that night and understand what it is. It is a celebration of your hard work. That's what it is. And if you take that in that night, you'll have the greatest night of your life. Because number one, you will be thankful. That's the first thing. You're going to be thankful that night. You're going to be thankful for not only the hard work, but you're going to be thankful for what, everybody that was involved in it, from his grandmother, to his teachers, to his friends that came along the way, to the professionals that eventually helped him along the way, to the agency that took him in, to his art agent that signed him, right? And understand that it started off with your hard work, being humble, and also making the right decisions in life. And understand that more is to come. Don't let that be the pinnacle. Understand there's more to come. That's going to be a great night. Take it all in. I would, if he sells all of his work, fantastic. If people go there and are so enamored with the work and everything sells out quickly or sells in time, that's great. I know he's smart. He's going to know already, like, listen, that's great. If the stuff sells, fantastic, awesome. But really, let that just be a celebration of you did things the right way. And do it with your loved one. While you're there, hug your grandmother, kiss your grandmother, and be like, look, Grandma, this is what we did. And, with your family members and with your friends, he's got close friends, I know, that, joined his journey when he got to art and design, that are still in his life now, that are very close to him. Celebrate it with them. Give them a hug and be like, yo, you were part of this, I don't know. It's going to be weird because I'm like, I know that night when I go, because I know it's September 6th, and I'm not sure if that's our first night back to work or not as teachers or anything, but I know I'm going to be there, and I'm even wondering myself, like when I see him, because we talk and we text and talk and stuff, but like just, being there to see him in that, it's going to be weird. I'll probably cry. I probably will. I'll probably like have some tears in my eyes, like, wow, look at this. This is crazy. So I would just hope that overall, if he just keeps it simple that night and understands that is just a celebration of his doing things the right way, I think he's going to have a great night. I think it's going to probably be a night he never forgets in his entire life, and hopefully leads to new avenues for him. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of schmooze in that night and connections made and people that are going to want to connect themselves to him. So I as I tell him all the time, guard yourself, definitely guard yourself and make sure nobody is using you for anything. Make sure you're doing things with people that really want to work with you for the right reasons and stuff. So I think he will. I think September 6th for him is going to be awesome. I think, I can definitely tell he's excited, but I know he's nervous, but I think that's what it's going to come down to that night. It's going to be good. It's going to be cool. Of what he did, though, that is genius. Yes, that's genius of how he flipped it and opened that world up. Whereas most artists were very private with it and very selfish, he turned it around and made it a thing where people connected, because now they could enjoy the drawings and enjoy the connection. So that was genius. That's the genius right there. There's the genius. What he's doing now since then, though, is all work ethic. I mean, that's not hustler. No, he's not a hustler. His work ethic and his drive is what's leading him into these avenues of success. Sometimes hustlers can be shady, like a car salesman. They're hustlers. They're trying to hustle you a new car, anybody trying to sell you something, right? I don't think Devon is trying to sell anybody. I think what Devon is saying is, he's showing you an experience of the connection between the subject matter and the art. See, the only real people in art who were ever really experienced to that were those in privilege or in wealth, who were basically doing portraits of kings or doing celebrities, where people actually stood in front for hours upon time while somebody painted them, right? But now what he's done is he's taken this moment in life, which is so quick, and he's basically said, let me show you what that connection's like when I hand the drawing to somebody and you see the joy in their face. Or if I show you this painting that I did and you understand that it came from a moment I captured on my camera, where I saw two people interacting on the train, hugging one another, or just maybe the gentle hand touch that they had with one another, or maybe it was just the way the light was reflecting off their face, right? He's taking you into those moments of time. That's what he's done. That's the genius as well, though. So is that he's taken these moments and he's basically showing you the connection between him and the subject, and that's cool. That's very cool. But his work ethic is what's is really the whole thing behind him. Is just that drive, and that's really admirable. Man, if you were to name this documentary, you might want to call it Devon Rodriguez. Devon Rodriguez, driven. Just a driven artist, or driven to succeed. Because really, that's what it comes to. Is just his drive. I mean. Again, you come across a lot of talent as a teacher, but it's just the drive's not there. And so, follows all the cliches about hard work, and, he is just, he's a unicorn. He's a unicorn. So he definitely, but he's not a hustler. I would definitely never put him in that category. His success is built by his drive and determination and just his will to want to be really, really, really good at his craft, because he respects the craft. See, that's another thing you got to understand that I haven't really heard many people talk about. I've watched many interviews, people talk about Devon. You better understand something. He respects the craft. He respects the hard work that goes into it. He respects the knowledge of an art form that a lot of people now are really not, I would say, not that they're not aware of it, but that because of the digital art age we're in now, it's almost, to them, it's like magic. When they see somebody draw somebody and make it look like them, it's like magic, right? But I think for Devon, he respects the technical aspects of what we do. You have to be trained in what we do. Yes, every now and then you get that one person or two people out there that it's like this gift that's just within them. Like I've seen plenty. People can look at somebody for 2 seconds and then not look at them again, draw them, and it looks just like them. It's like a gift they have in their brain, right? It's like a special gift, right? But the skills that you need to be trained to do what we do and do what Devon does, it's like anything. It's like somebody who is a great hitter in baseball, all the years of practice and the skills and learning how to hit the ball, or somebody who knows construction and learning how to build things and knowing all the tools you need. He's done his research. Go back and look at some of his videos where he talks about brushes, or he talks about pencils, or he talks about, I remember when he was really getting into color theory and he was doing this, he was almost fanatical about it, where he was training himself to learn how to mix colors the proper way, where he was like memorizing color-coded cards. That's insane. That's drive. That's where he respects the craft. And see, I think for a lot of artists that hate on him, that's what you don't understand. It's like, go look at those videos. Go look at all of that stuff. You'll see he respects the craft. To him, it's not just like, oh, well, I'm good at this and this is what I'm going to do and make my money. No. He respects it. He respects the time it takes. He respects the fact that there's going to be many mistakes. Let's remember something. Any good artist will tell you, for every good drawing you do or every good painting you do, there's probably 100 bad drawings or 100 bad paintings you did before you got to that good one. And that's what he knows that. And that's probably why he's so good. I got to think about this one. Piece of advice for Devon. How do you give advice to somebody who really doesn't need the advice? I guess the best advice I could say for Devon is never take yourself too seriously. Enjoy those around you who are your support system. Enjoy them and share your success with them. The one thing I love the most is when he posts the videos of him like taking his grandmother to the Mets games, right? I love those videos because it just goes to show that he never looked over the past, that his grandmother had this love for the New York Mets. And then once he had access to like sit in the front row or sit in the owner's box, he wasn't doing that with a celebrity. He wasn't sitting there like keying it up with like some bigwig celebrity, which I'm sure he could do. Who was there with him? It was his grandmother. And so I would just tell him, continue to love those around you. And as your success builds and you climb that ladder in the world of art, take those along with you that were there for you, that were there for you, like your grandmother, and others that love you for the right reasons. And if you stay true to that, you're golden for the rest of your life. Never lose sight of that. And you'll cruise through life and you'll never have any worries. And yeah, that would be my advice to him. Just continue to bring those along that you love and know that we're there for you, like your grandma, and stay true to yourself. Never take yourself too seriously, and you'll be good.
That sounds like some great advice.
Yeah.
Sound advice. All right. I think we got everything
Nice.
we need.
That was good. Yeah, it was really good.